It's Gaz, and welcome back to the Warframe video. So I said I'm making a tier list, and for once I'm actually doing it. Here is the Incarnon Awakening tier list today. We're going over all 30 of the weapons that are currently available. And just a reminder, if I don't put your favorite weapon in S tier, that's because it doesn't deserve it. I mean, that's just because, you know, it's my tier list, and if you'd like the Bronco Incarnon that much that you think it's S tier, then go ahead and make your own tier list where the Bronco's S tier, because I'm just trying to look at it from every perspective, for single target damage, for multi-target damage, for what type of damage you're pumping out, for the utility and everything, for every faction. The reason I don't make tier list videos very often is because I put a lot of thought into them. And also, there's so many factors to these things. And at the end of the day, if I tell you that I don't think this one is very good, whatever one I say is not the best, don't take it too personally. It's really just going to be use the stuff you like because that's this game. There's no actual competitiveness to it. It's just go out and have some fun, okay? If you enjoy these types of videos, make sure you're subbed. We do daily Warframe video uploads. And if you guys enjoy this tier list, I'll do some more in the future. I was planning on doing some tier list earlier in the year, but I just make so many videos. I had other things to make videos on. But yeah, we're actually making it today. And this will not include the previously existing Incarnon weapons like the Fenmore, the Felarks, and then the Lato. Those would probably all just be S tier though, because they're really good and they've been really good for a while. Alright, so this video, I'm going to go over these briefly, each of them as I place them on here, but it'd probably be for the best if you know what these Incarnons do before I place them. But I'll still tell you anyway, okay? So let's get started, and I've got S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier, D tier, and Bugged tier. Bugged tier because for things like the Soma Incarnon, like, it's literally been confirmed by the devs that Hata Sacha is supposed to work on the Incarnon mode, and it doesn't work. And also, the Xylok. The devs have not confirmed this, but it's supposed to have multi-shot working on the AoE shot and things of that nature, like line of sight and all that. So we're going to put the Xylok in Bug tier, even though I really like the Xylok Incarnon. And I might still make a video on it before they bug fix it. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's start with the Ack Brunt. Now, the Ack Brunt is going to get some good base stat bumps. It's going to be getting a special attack where it's going to release these like spectral axes. They don't do force slash or anything like that. I believe they do impact and heat, but it's also a pretty nice little gimmick, and the Ack Brunt has good stats already, so it just bumps them up a lot, making it one of the best melee Incarnons, but also making it still a melee Incarnon. We're going to put it at B tier. If you are going to pick a melee Incarnon, this is one of the best choices, but also it's a pretty niche weapon. It's like, okay, a kind of ugly sword and shield. It's going to really be up to you if you like these kinds of weapons. Because I'll tell you what, it's better than the bow, it's better than like the Furax, but at the same time, it's still an Incarnon melee. Do you want to use your choice for the week on that? It's going to really be up to you. It can kill some acolytes really fast, it can take care of ad clear as much as a melee can, and yeah, I'd recommend it. I'm probably going to pick it up next time it comes around. Alright, moving on to the next one, we have the Atomos. I think this is actually very good. Now, this one it would have been bug tier before, and of course, when I put things in bug tier on here, I'm putting them there when they're really buggy. The Atomos probably still has there's probably a bunch of these that still have bugs on them, but they're not bugs that are entirely ruining the weapon like the Atomos old bug was. Some of the Incarnons were not working, it was losing a bunch of base damage and all that. Now that it's been fixed, I'm going to put this in A tier. And I'm actually going to say this is one of the best pistols in the game for AoE ad clear. You can kill tons of enemies easily. The biggest pitfall of this weapon is the fact it cannot build Incarnon charge very fast because it kills stuff too quickly. Like, the enemies just are too weak. So, but the nice thing is the primary shot is still very good for AoE. It chains to nearby enemies with a beam weapon. The Incarnon alt fire is a big range explosion attack that can do some pretty good single target damage even though it's a giant AoE. Now, like I said, it's not really the best for single target, but you can still one-shot some acolytes with this thing. So I'm going to put it at A tier, keeping in mind it's not an S tier because it's not the best at single target. And it also has only heat damage on it, and the explosion shot has blast. But yeah, the Incarnon upgrades are very nice on this thing. Makes it have lots of range, makes it have lots of crit. It's just a very, very good one. I'd highly recommend it when it comes around. Alright, unfortunately, we got to the first actual stinker here. We got the bow and the bow prime. The best thing that's going to really do is be a stat stick. The Incarnon upgrade on this, when it's in Incarnon mode, it gets 3 extra meters of range. But unfortunately, staff weapons have bad follow-through stat, so you're not going to be hitting every enemy for full damage in the first place. Additionally, one of the strongest Incarnon options on the bow is impact becomes slash, which means, you know, your impact damage that you normally have on the bow becomes a damage type that's actually good. But after a bunch of testing, we figured out that the impact becomes slash Incarnon thing can only proc once per hit, even if you get 2 impact procs. So that also holds it back. You're not going to be getting as much slash as you would hope. And also, the leaked Incarnons before this came out made it seem like it would be a lot more exciting. Bo's going to be sitting on D tier, probably alongside some other melees as well, to be honest. Like I said, they could be nice stat sticks, but if I'm using my Incarnon Unlocker and grinding out Steel Path Circuit for a stat stick, that's going to be disappointing for me, unless it's like overwhelmingly strong, like one of the ones we'll get to here in a little bit. So Bo is down at D tier. I don't see any reason to put it in C tier, really. It's some of the worst, alongside lots of the other melees. All right, Boltor. This thing is actually pretty powerful. It's not exciting, though. It's just very, it's reminiscent of Warhammer 40,000, Heavy Boltor, destroy the heretics and all that stuff. So I would say the thing is, too, it pumps out some good slash damage. I'm definitely going to be thinking about putting this one in A tier. And the reason for that is it's pretty much like what the Soma should have been. It's got good crit, it's got very high slash, it's full auto, obviously, it's got decent status, and it can definitely, one-shot some high-level enemies. I'd highly recommend this one. And also, the whole debate between Boltor Prime and Boltor Syndicate version, Pablo, the dev from Warframe, has tweeted they will make it where you can remove Incarnon Unlockers and put them on other stuff in the future. So you'll be able to test out the Boltor Prime and the Boltor Normal, whoever one you like the best. The Boltor Prime is shiny, though, so that's nice and golden. All right, moving on. Now we're in the B section right here with all these weapons that all start with the letter B. And some of them are kind of similar. So I'm going to put the Braton also on A tier. Again, it's not going to be on S tier. It should show how strong these Incarnons really are. That a boring weapon like the Braton, which its Incarnon mode gives it an exploding bullet, it's good enough to be on A tier. I've done some level 10,000 runs with the Braton Incarnon before. It's very nice. It's not, exciting. Like I said, it's not very exciting. It has not the best fire rate. And when we go with the Burston, it's pretty much the exact same thing as the Burston. It's going to really come down to the Burston having a lot more fire rate and ammo, and the Braton having more damage per shot, but of course a lot lower fire rate. But still, very good crits. And there's also lots of choices for the Braton. I've gone with the Braton Prime. The Braton Vandal's also going to be pretty good, too. Very, very good crit stats. All right, Bronco. This will be the first one that's going to go in C tier. The reason that the Bronco is not in D tier or higher is because it's the Bronco. Well, rather, it's the Bronco Prime singular. The reason this thing is actually pretty good is because it has a augment called Dizzying Rounds, which when you shoot an enemy with the Bronco, they will become stunned and vulnerable to finishers. This can work on lots of enemies, and the Incarnon Bronco fire mode becomes, basically, it's chaining shots. You fire one shot out, and it hits like 5 enemies nearby. That does work with the augment for AoE stuns. So, from a utility standpoint, that could be in like A or S tier. But when we're putting all these things stacked together with each other, the damage of the Bronco is okay, definitely not great. I would not recommend using this thing as your main DPS source. I would definitely recommend using it as mostly a utility damage source. But it can get the job done for damage as well. But at the same time, who's going to be really using the Bronco as their main DPS source for clearing out ads? I'd say not many people. But the utility option here is nice. The Bronco does not have the best stats. But yeah, I'm going to put it in C tier because there's other pistols that do pretty much the exact same thing it does, but just better. And it's mostly the dual Toxcyst, to be honest. All right, as I was saying earlier, the Burston and the Braton are very, very similar for their Incarnons. So I'd probably say the Burston one's a little bit better just because that fire rate can be really nice for getting out status chance. But if you want to just go around one-shotting stuff, they're both going to get the job done, especially on Steel Path. And they both start with the B, so it's very confusing to remember which one is which. But yeah, they are very similar. They both have heat on the Incarnon mode, and they both have good crit stats and all that. So, whatever one you want to go for, I'd say go for both. I'm going to get the Burston when it comes back around. That S tier is looking kind of empty right now, so let's go ahead and change that with the Ceramic Dagger Incarnon. Now, if you watch my initial overview video of the Incarnons, once we got all this, like the in-game stats for them, you might have noticed I was confused with Ceramic Dagger. I'm like, what is going on with the Ceramic Dagger? These upgrades sound extremely powerful, and they are. So, the biggest thing about the Ceramic Dagger is this is the new best stat stick in the game. And why is it the best stat stick in the game? For weapons or for frames like Baruch, Korra, Gara, etc., this can make it where you need to never actually worry about building up combo. One of the Incarnons of the Ceramic Dagger is on primary kill plus 1 initial combo. Stacks up to 100 times. So that means you get 100 primary kills, you're walking around with 100 initial combo. If you throw an initial combo riven on top of that, you're going to have like 100 and something hits all the time. So that's you with like a 10x multiplier. doing literally nothing involving melee, and since it's initial combo, you will not lose that until you die. So you can keep heavy attacking over and over again with 100 hits. It's amazing. It's amazing. You're going to have your core Whip Claw all the time. You're going to be able to one-shot Acolytes all the time. It's just good, and you should get this. This is the first one in S tier for good reason. It's got very good riven stats too, so this is going to be like one of the best melee stat sticks. Now I could put this in bug tier technically, because I heard there's a bug where plus melee damage is not working on this thing. I think it's only for the daggers though, but at the same time, it's doing so much damage. It's got such good utility. It's just a good weapon to have, and I will be definitely picking this up when it comes around in a couple weeks. Alright, moving on to the Despair. Now, I don't know if I can really put the Despair on the same tier as the Atomos, because, yeah, the Despair can kill in AoE, but it's really, it's just a normal throwing star weapon when you don't have the AoE activated. So it can do good damage, but I'm definitely thinking about putting it more in B tier here than A or S tier, with the top tier stuff that's like reliable, and, you know, just gets the job done. If you don't get your headshots with this Despair, it's just a throwing star weapon. A powerful throwing star weapon. The Incarnon mode on this makes it exploding throwing stars, which is AoE, which is very nice. So I definitely would say, like, I put it in the upper end of B tier and maybe like the lowest part of A tier. But yeah, it's not really, you know, it's also a very rare weapon, so it's not like everybody's going to have that in the first place. But a very powerful weapon that is not as good at AoE as the Atomos in my viewpoint. Alright, so a lot of these primaries are going to be an A tier, to be honest, just because primaries have good mods in this game, so it's just how it goes. So the Dread Incarnon, going to be an A tier. Very powerful. It's going to be pretty much the exact same situation with the Paris Prime Incarnon. Becomes like a Nadaruk arrow with very good base stats. So if you want to get like a gas build going here, it's going to have gas and slash. If you want to do a heat build, it can do that. Viral heat even works here. And it hits really, really hard. It's not amazingly exciting, but hey, it's a bow. The Nadaruk is probably one of the best bows in the game easily, so this is going to go up there with it. I highly recommend it, and I wouldn't call it S tier at all, though. It's a bow. You gotta get your headshots just like everything else. And yeah. Alright, moving on to the Dual Ichor. It's a melee. I hate to do this to it, but I'm going to put it down in D tier. Actually, no, I'm going to be a little more fair to the Dual Ichor. It's one of the better melee Incarnons. Let's put it at C tier. It doesn't have a range attack like the Ack Brunt. But it's also not complete, like, uselessness like the bow Incarnon. It's got decent base stats, it's got good crit, it's got base toxin, and the Incarnon attack on this thing is going to make it toxin clouds in the area that might, you know, get some fire off your back. I wouldn't really recommend it, but you'll eventually get all of them if you're just grinding this game out like we all do. Alright, moving on to another one. Now this might be a controversial choice. I'm going to put the Dual Toxcyst at S tier. I know. So the reason I'm putting Dual Toxcyst at S tier is, as we were saying earlier, the Bronco Incarnon is going to make it where it's chained bullets in an area. Now, imagine that you have a full auto version of that has, I believe, built-in viral and good stats all around. This Dual Toxcyst Incarnon is pretty much AoE. You get a headshot, you get enough headshots with it, you put it in Incarnon mode, it just starts mowing through enemies like a machine gun AoE chaining pistol. So very cool in that regard. I would say it is the best of the chaining pistol Incarnons, and there's actually 3 of them. I believe Dual Toxcyst, Bronco, and Lato all the same thing. And you could kind of call the Atomos a chaining pistol too. I feel like the Dual Toxcyst might have better single target damage at high levels though. So it's really going to be down to, like, you know, do you need a pistol that can both take care of AoE and single target? Because the Dual Toxcyst seems pretty good for that. Now, but of course, it could technically be in A tier. Alright, moving on to the Furax. This is one I just don't like at all. I would say you could use it as a stat stick. But after I reviewed the Furax Incarnon, they have not bug fixed it at all. The fire AoE on the Furax Incarnon is just not powerful. It did like 2 damage when I tested it, and it's apparently how it's supposed to work, because they have not mentioned they will be fixing it. So basically what it comes down to is they're the best punching weapon in the game. But if you're using your Incarnon Unlocker for the week to get a melee weapon that's just a good melee weapon, you know, the Furax could do most of the stuff it's doing right now before. The biggest things the Furax got from the Incarnon upgrades was Impact becomes Slash, and as you can see, Impact becomes Slash only procs on 1 hit, so that's down in D tier. You know, it can definitely kill stuff though, don't get me wrong. I could probably kill level 10,000 with my Furax Wraith, no problem. But we're comparing that we're putting it on like a chart with the rest of them. So it has to be compared next to the Ceramic Dagger, you know, the Dual Toxcyst, etc., etc. So it in comparison, it's also just looking worse and worse. So it was very disappointing when I got this thing leveled up, and that did not change after weeks and weeks. So Furax, that's where you belong, and you deserve it. All right, moving on to the Furis. Now, the Furis one is really good. It becomes kind of like the tier 7 operator amp. What's the name of the prism? The Replock prism, I think it's called. Like basically a jet engine, like hairdryer thing with good heat damage. This can do very good at high levels, but it's also not really an ad clear pistol, so I'm going to put it in B tier. I don't have it, so once I get it, maybe I'll like it more. There's also no prime version, as I said, which is kind of disappointing, but it can do very good at high levels, so probably like the top of B tier, lower end of A tier, I'd call it, because it's not going to be your primary ad clear source. That's where the Atomos will be more important, but the Atomos also, you know, if I really jammed all the buffs I want to, I'm sure I could one-shot some level 10,000 the Atomos as well, so. Furis and Dual Toxcyst might look like kind of questionable placements, but, you know, they're very good in their own right. If we had a Furis Prime, I'd definitely put it in, like, A or S tier. Moving on to the Hate. Now, this is one that technically could be in Bug tier, but DE did say they're going to be looking into the shockwaves of the light attacks on this thing knocking you over. That's currently a thing that I guess is... They're looking into it. It's not even a bug. They're looking into it. So, the Hate Scythe was already a really good melee, and you just jammed some more stats on that thing. It's about to go crazy. So, once I get that bug fix going on, I think this will be an easy A tier, maybe even S, because it's got good, it's going to be red crit energy waves of slashy death. If it did energy waves of heavy attacks, it'd be an S tier, but for right now, I'm going to put it in, like, you know, like, midish upper A tier. And we'll leave it at that. I do want to get this one eventually, but again, it is technically in DE's eyes bugged. Kunai, I'm going to put that in D tier. It goes from a single target weapon to a single target weapon, and there is no Kunai Prime. It's just super, super disappointing, and the Despair is AoE. Kunai's a single target. Instant D tier from me. Lato and Incarnon, this one could probably be on the same tier as like the Bronco. As I said earlier, the Bronco and Incarnon makes shots chain to nearby enemies. Lato does the exact same thing, but it's going to probably do a little bit more damage. So they're very, very similar. They're both going in C tier. Actually, maybe the Lato should go lower than C tier because the Bronco at least has the AoE stun augment, and the Lato has pretty much nothing. So if you are a founder, now here's what I'll say. If you are a founder with the Lato Prime, sure, get it. If you're a founder with Lato Prime, it probably goes up a tier or two. But if you have the Lato Vandal, the Lato Vandal has much worse stats than Lato Prime, so for the general player base, we're putting that in C tier. I'll probably still pick it up, even though I know it's going to be mediocre. I say mediocre. Mediocre as far as Incarnons are concerned, because it's just not exciting. It's like the Burston versus Braton situation, and also the Dread versus Paris. Yeah, it's just a chaining shot. Nothing too crazy. Like that's good. It's good in the functionality of the game we're playing, but it's not like some of these ridiculous ones like Miter Man right here, where it's killing 3 Demolists in 1 bullet sometimes. So, all right, moving on to another easy S tier. We got the Latron Incarnon. Now, this one is a big, big improvement over the normal Latron Prime situation. Get a load of this. So the Latron Incarnon can armor strip, AoE explode, cause heat procs, and has extremely high crit. It can also, like, easily one-shot level 10,000 enemies. So Latron is an easy S tier. It makes the weapon go from no one is using this to, man, I really wish I picked this one up on the second week. Very, very good for single target. Good for multi-target as well. This is a good indication of what some of the strongest Incarnons in the game are, putting them on the Latron's level. And honestly, it would probably be, like, over here. Like, if we're going left to right as the strongest options here, Dual Toxcyst, honestly, Dual Toxcyst might just go to A tier. I really think it's good. It's very good for a CO procer as well, but, you know. Alright, moving on to the Lex. Now, the Lex is going to go in S tier as well. The reason for this is it is similar to the Latron. It goes from a weapon no one was really using that much to a weapon that has extremely high damage. And the Incarnon shot for the Lex becomes an Arcaplasmor, kind of like Catch Moon projectile. Clear out an entire hallway. It's got good riven stats. It's got forced impact proc, so the hemorrhage mod for pistols gives you a slash proc when you get that impact proc. It's just really good. I can't wait to get this and make a video on it. And also to jam my new riven on. I got multi-shot crit chance and minus status duration. Even with minus status duration, I'm expecting these slash procs to be so gigantic they die in 1 tick anyway. So if you don't have a Lex Incarnon, it will be a very good weapon to have for high-level missions. Also, decently good for clearing out a hallway, too, as I said. Biggest problem with the Lex Incarnon is it has terrible fire rate. That's okay. Alright, moving on to another stinker. We got potentially the worst Incarnon, in my opinion, the Magistar and the Sancti Magistar. I could probably just make a tier called Stat Sticks, like below D, where these weapons are only Stat Sticks, basically. The Magistar Incarnon, I'm going to go out and say it. If they fix the bug where every attack has lifesteal, I'm just going to never use it again. It is a generic hammer with impact becomes slash. Would you look at that? All the impact becomes slash stuff is in D tier. It will only proc 1 slash proc per impact proc at most. And yeah, the Incarnons don't even do anything for the most part. There's one of the Incarnons is you have to have no guns equipped. And if you have no guns equipped, you get like 40% attack speed. The other one requires a channeled ability. Yeah, it's just bad. It's just bad. I don't know why I was so hyped for it before launch. I probably thought the impact becomes slashing would actually be good. And here we are with the Magistar Incarnon. It's the generic hammer. It looks cool. It looks like Sauron's mace from Lord of the Rings. So if you ever get that Sevagoth Sauron helmet, I'll probably use that for some cosplay. But yeah, as it stands right now, stay as far away from the Magistar Incarnon as you can. And if you didn't know what the Incarnon mode does, I think it just gives you like some extra heavy attack wind-up speed or something like that. So yeah, it's meant to heal you. And there's currently a bug where every light attack will heal you as well. So if it loses that bug, I will never use this thing, and it doesn't stop talking about it because it makes me sad. Miter, easy S tier. I would say the Miter and the Latron are fighting each other for the strongest weapon in the game. In the background footage, I am using the Miter Incarnon, and from my testing while I was leveling this thing up, have you ever wanted to kill 2 Demolists in 1 bullet? Well, the Miter has you covered. Also, do you hate nullifiers? Miter has you covered. This is the best anti-nullifier weapon in the game, because it's a special augment mod called Neutralizing Justice. Whenever you fire a Miter Saw Blade and it hits a nullifier bubble, it has a 90% chance to destroy the bubble instantly. And that works in the Incarnon mode. The Incarnon mode on this thing is exploding, chaining, homing saw blades. Did I get all that stuff? Oh, they do heat damage as well. In my Miter Incarnon video, I killed 20 nullifier bubbles in, I think, 2 bullets. So that should show you how good this thing is for nullifiers. If you're ever doing a high-level Corpus mission, bring this thing with the augment. If you're doing a high-level fissure mission, bring this thing with the augment. I am literally doing that in the background footage right now on the Steel Path because we deal so much damage. I can run a anti-Corpus mod just to take care of enemies' shields, or enemies' nullifier bubbles. So highly recommend this one. It's got crazy high ribbons, it's got crazy high stats. And yeah, it can kill some high level stuff very easily too. So I'd highly recommend it. Takes a little bit getting used to with the homing of the saw blades. But once you get used to it, you'll realize this thing does not need to be full auto because it does so much damage. All right, moving on to the Nami Solo. I believe this one is bug, but it is a slash. It is a slash machete, and it's an Incarnon slash machete. So that already I think that makes it better than these impact becomes slash melees. I haven't tested this one out myself. I did hear that it is, I heard when the Incarnons is bugged, it's not giving you the healing or something like that. But at the same time, it's Nami Solo. It's got good rivens. It's got slash and all that. Machete weapons have force slash procs on heavies. So I'm sure you could do worse than this, but also it's not exciting at all. So probably a good stat stick, probably a good slash melee. I don't use it, but I'm sure that you could find some use out of it. It's not D tier at least. Moving on to the Paris. Gonna put that right next to the Dread in A tier. Now, I definitely do want to I want to do a showdown video eventually on the Paris versus the Dread. I think the Paris might come out ahead. Looking at my build, I showed this on stream a couple days ago. On my Paris Incarnon shot, I have 200% crit chance, 200% status chance. So over 200% crit chance, by the way. So we're getting red crit, multiple gas procs per arrow on the Paris Prime. I don't know if the Dread's really doing that, to be honest, because one of the Paris Incarnons is really strong. It gives you plus 60% status chance, and then that stacks on top of mods and stuff too. So very, very strong. And good for single target and multi-target. Not amazing for multi-target, but similar to the Lex, it can take care of a hallway. I'd say we're gonna put this one in A tier. Seems kind of fair to me. And also, it's very nice because this thing is easily accessible. Same with the Dread. They're both very accessible weapons. So as long as you get to that point where you can farm out the Steel Path circuit, you'll be able to get these in a great time. Okay, moving on to the Sibear. I heard this one actually is bugged. I haven't tried it, but I heard the ice field on this thing is not working. So I think I'm going to put this in bugged tier, but it would probably be in like C tier, honestly, if I didn't put it in bugged tier because of the ice thing doing literally nothing from what I can tell. But it's a cold hammer, so you throw on a toxin mod, you get viral damage, all good to go. You do corrosive cold technically too. Yeah, I haven't heard too much about this one, but I did hear it is bugged, so I'm going to put that in bugged tier. Keeping on, it would probably be like around here or like a little bit higher in here if it wasn't. The Skana, the only Incarnon they have actually nerfed. The Skana Prime Incarnon did get nerfed, and the Skana Prisma version got buffed for some reason. So I'm going to put that in probably like upper mid-ish C tier. It's not as bad as the Impact Becomes Slash stuff. It's got Slash built in. It's got good, you know, it's a good stat stick, I guess, too. It's got decent Riven dispo, so... You know, this C tier, it's kind of like the stuff that's like, I guess I remember those exist, but, you know, Skana, if you have a Skana Prime, I guess do it for the shininess, but I am definitely not looking forward to picking this one up eventually next week. All right, moving on to the last three here. I'm surprised we were at the last three already. I got the Strun, Torid, and Vasto. Now, if you would have asked me on week 1 what the best Incarnon was going to be, I would tell you the Strun is the best, or the Latron was the best. But now that we have the Latron, the Miter, and all this stuff like fully looked at, I'm going to put the Strun at like very high upper A tier. It can definitely kill some high-level enemies and get lots of heat procs. It can get lots of big crits. But it doesn't bounce around and like kill everything in the room. It's when you fire the... So the way that the Strun Incarnon works, you get your charge built up, you push the Incarnon button, then you basically have like a rocket launcher. The Strun becomes a rocket launcher, but the thing is the Latron and the Miter become rocket launchers that hunt down other enemies. And the Strun is only... explodes where you fire it. So that's how power creeped we are. We need the rocket launcher to like go after other enemies too. So since we're so power creeped, the Strun will be an A tier. It's a very, very powerful weapon. One of the best Incarnons in the game. It hits really hard, but it's still single target. It's still semi-auto. You know, we're fighting enemies. There's a group of them there. There's a group of them there. You have to fire one shot per group of enemies unless you're using a grouping ability like Korra. So the Strun goes down in that way. Alright, this is one that's going to be not super easy to place, the Torid. Now, the thing about the Torid is it goes from... The Torid has actually quite a few things going for it that make it especially exciting. So one of them being the Torid Incarnon can build charge from body shots. It's the only gun in the game that can build Incarnon charge from body shots. That's actually how it's designed. It's not a bug. It's supposed to be that way. And once you build your Incarnon charge up on the Torid, it becomes basically the strongest beam weapon in the game. If you ever watch my Vermisplicer videos, think of the Vermisplicer, but with even higher stats. That's a very good way to put it. And very good chaining, too. So, in that regard, it's very good for multi-target. It's very good for single-target. I'm very, very close to putting this thing into S tier. I kind of want to just put it at A tier, though, because, like I said, it is pretty much just a better Vermisplicer. But a better Vermisplicer is something that I'm okay with. So, I'm thinking about putting this at, like, S tier. Yeah, I think it's better than the dual Toxcyst. It's very, very strong. One of the best primaries in the game. But it's just a really juiced up beam weapon. So if a juiced up beam weapon is good enough for S tier, there we go. I do think it's better than the Strun. And it only takes like 2 or 3 shots to build the Incarnon up in the first place. So very nice. And I don't have this one, but I will be picking it up once it comes back around. Alright, on to the final one here. We have the Vasto Incarnon. The way this one works is you get just some headshots, and then you switch to Incarnon mode, and it's basically, if you ever use the Pandero, or like the, I guess the Pandero is the best example. Fan the hammer, fires out 6 bullets at a time, that's what the Vasto Incarnon becomes. It gets really good base stats, and now it has some Incarnons as well, where if you swap to the weapon really quickly, it gives massive crit chance and crit damage buffs. So very good for clearing out like a single enemy, but it's very single target. But if you're looking for a weapon that takes out a single target very easily, this is going to be a decent option. But at the same time, there's other options too. If you're looking for a pistol that does that, Lex is going to have you covered. Any other pistols here that have you covered? Most of the Lex will be a better choice, but Vasto is very good for single target as well. So I think I'd put that like around here. So that's going to be the tier list, guys. If we get some more Incarnons, I'll definitely redo this in the future. As far as, you know, the best of the best, we got Latron, Miter, Ceramic Dagger, Lex, Torid, Dual Toxcyst. And as I said earlier, a little bit shaky in the Dual Toxcyst. It could go down to A tier. I just think it's very, very versatile. It's got built-in viral, and it becomes full auto. The Dual Toxcyst used to be semi-auto in the, I guess it's called like agitated mode or whatever. Now it's full auto, and it has buffed up stats. So I can't wait to get this one. Good for CO procer, good for shredding through Steel Path enemies, just good in general. But still, it could probably be an A tier. So Let me know how you guys feel about this placement on the list in the comments down below. And also let me know if you like these tier list videos. I can make some more for sure. They're pretty fun to make. I just want to make sure I put all the thought into my can. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Appreciate all the support. And yeah, Miter Man OP. Take it easy. Peace!